Welcome to the Runna Podcast. I'm Ben, head coach.
And I'm Anya, international marathon runner. And we're proud to be the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide.
We'll be having truly insightful conversation with truly inspirational guests, as well as bringing you tips and tricks for runners of all abilities.
Today on the podcast, we spoke to Elise Cranny, 2-time Olympian and 4-time US national champion. In this podcast, we dived into the power of mindset in running. Elise had a special talent from running from high school, and she went to train with Bowerman, Nike Track Club, and made it pretty quickly to Tokyo Olympics, which was a highlight in her career. But then she lost the love for running and struggled with mindset a bit and had to take a step back. She could have then given up, but with the power of her mindset and learning to re-love the sport, she made it back to Paris Olympics 2024. It is an incredible journey she's been on and so inspiring, and really shows the power of loving the sport and what that can do for your performance. Enjoy the episode. Hey Elise, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. I'm happy that you guys are in Boulder. It's extra special.
Yeah, here where you train. We'll try and get into some training. We will get into all of that, but I think it makes sense to start at the beginning. What got you into running in the first place, and how did you progress to where you are now?
Yeah, man, it's always crazy, like, looking back to just think. That's always such a good question to, like, put everything in perspective of, like, you had these goals and dreams, but to actually be here now, if, like, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade Elise could see that. But my parents did triathlons and Ironmans growing up. So I have 2 younger sisters. We grew up swimming and then got into running a little bit later, did a few triathlons. And then I would say probably my 8th grade year is when I really got into running. I did cross country with my middle school, and we would run to an ice cream shop and get ice cream. And so that was kind of like my first real intro to running. It was like, wow, this team sport where you can do, at the time, I don't know, it was probably like 2 miles, which felt like a long run. And we would get ice cream, and then someone would drive us back, or we would run back. And so that was kind of my very, very early memories of running. And then had some really great coaches in high school that I feel like really opened my eyes to the world of running. I didn't know what else was out there. I thought, like, the Colorado State meet was as big as it got. And they were like, no, you could run in college, you could run after college. And so, I think my parents and then some early, like, mentors and coaches really kind of started this trajectory for me.
And do you think it was the case of, like, seeing your parents enjoy doing that triathlon, and, like, seeing that as a fun, healthy way to live their life is what got you to have some fun playing around with it? And is that what got you started? And then is it the case that you were great? So then when you did the coaching, you kind of, like, or was it the case that you just had so much fun that you then got better than other people because you were doing more of it?
Yeah, I think it was a combo of both. I would definitely say, like, I just feel like my parents doing Ironmans, like, watching that and watching them train, like, they would work all week, and then my sisters and I would, like, on the weekends, they would go for 5-6 hour bike ride, come back, go for like a 2-hour run. And then we would, like, make them breakfast when they came back. And that just seemed like such a normal thing. But they also, like, were so happy and they loved it. And I think, going to some of their races, I think just the idea of seeing them have so much fun, like, pushing themselves. And also I vividly remember, like, my grandpa and I would go back. The cutoff is midnight. So we would go back from, like, 10 to midnight and just be at the finish line and watch people that were out there for, like, 15, 16, 17 hours, and people that had crazy stories or had overcome incredible things. And I think for me that I always just took so much inspiration from that, in terms of, like, any sort of endurance sport is, like, you are, like, finding your limit and going past it from, like, a physical perspective, but also from a mental perspective. And so I think when I got into running, it was just, like, the challenge that was really fun. And it was fun to just, like, keep getting better, and also feel like I said, it was like cross country is a team sport, and that's kind of how I first got into it. But it also felt really cool to be like, you're putting in work and then you're seeing it yourself, like, you're seeing, maybe not right away. Like, that was something I had to learn in high school, is it definitely got more fun when you started to see success. But for the first couple of years of high school, I feel like I was putting in a lot of training, but not kind of having those breakthroughs. And so that's a big lesson that I would say an early coach, Jason Hartman, taught me, was just you have to keep putting in the work, and you might not see it right away, but it's going to come through at some point. And so I think continuing to have fun and feel like you're challenging yourself and pushing through those limits, and like that breakthrough will come down the road. And then obviously when the breakthroughs start to come and you start to see that you're getting better, there's a lot of fun to that.
So you're at high school, you're running hard, you're working with a coach. Were you doing that because you wanted these breakthroughs, you wanted to get to like kind of further down the line with your running? Or were you doing it because it simply made you happy? Like, where did you sit on that spectrum? Like, what was that?
That's such a good
Was it
question.
that early ambition, or were you just simply loving running?
Yeah. Oh man. I think, I think in the beginning it was really because I just like, I loved it. And like I said, I think there were a lot of things growing up that were fun, like running to the ice cream shop, or even in the early years of high school, like we would run to a friend's house that had a hot tub and then sit in the hot tub and then like run back. And so I feel like just feeling like you're out there moving your body, but you're talking to your friends, and like that just felt like so fun to me. But then, like I said, I think the influence of my coaches that were like, there are all these steps and things that you could like chase after. Like that was really exciting when you start to see that of like, I don't remember what I was my freshman year, probably like 10th at state or something. And then when you see like, okay, I want to like try to move up slowly and I want to like make progress, I think that's something that becomes, very addicting.
So what was the maybe breakthrough that realized you were on a path to being great one day?
Yeah, I would say it probably came my third year of high school, when I had run a mile up at the Air Force Academy. So it was like, I don't know, 8,000 feet. I don't know what that is in meters for the UK listeners.
2,500, I think it is, something like that.
Hi.
But I broke 5 minutes in the mile for the first time. And then my coach at the time was like, you should do, at the time it was New Balance Nationals, indoor nationals in New York. And I went there and PR'd by 18 seconds and won nationals and ran 4:40. And I just like vividly remember afterwards they were interviewing me and someone was like, have you ever run on like an indoor 200-meter bank track? Like, have you ever broken 5 before? And have you ever been to New York? And I was like, no. I was just so naive, like so didn't know, again, that there were races that really existed like out of the state of Colorado on like a national level. And so I would probably say that's the one that really sticks out to me, where it felt like kind of my first 2 years of high school, it felt like, okay, you're really putting in the work and you're getting better, but you're not kind of seeing like the big breakthrough that I felt like my coaches or the people around me were seeing. And so that was probably the first taste I really got of like, wow, you can do this on like a national scale, which hopefully then scales to a lot of years of running.
Did that then like open your eyes for the first time to realize like what there is out there and what you could achieve? And then did you then like put your mind to it and be like, I want to do this? Or were these times still just coming naturally?
Yeah, I would definitely say there was a mindset shift. Like I think, in some ways, as we talked about watching my parents grow up, and like I think just being around a lot of like growing up in Boulder, being around a lot of very athletic people, I think early on it was like I loved sport and was like, as a kid, you're like, I want to go to the Olympics one day. But like having that breakthrough and kind of seeing that, I feel like was the first time that you're like, maybe this could actually happen. Like you're doing things that like you didn't necessarily imagine. And I think, as I said earlier, like having some coaches and mentors was so huge for me. I think those people like believed in me before I believed in myself. It's like so special to have someone who sees something in you before you, like, you're like, I like this and it's fun and like I'm getting better at it. But to see someone that's like, no, this could like, you could really make something of this, I think was really huge. And I think that breakthrough was the first time that I feel like I kind of saw what people kind of had told me and maybe understood.
And did that take you on a path to becoming a professional athlete almost immediately out of college?
I would say, yeah, like I think after that breakthrough, like my last 2 years of high school, I think I got a better sense of like, okay, I can run in college. This is an opportunity. And then I think seeing people start to go pro after college, I definitely had dreams of doing that.
And so you're then in a point where your livelihood is made by your professional sport. Does that put more pressure on your running? Does that change your love and affinity for it?
It's definitely been hard. I think it's definitely like been up and down with that. I think that was something that it wouldn't have really thought of necessarily when I was younger, just like kind of the pressure that comes along with that. And I think for a while, it's like I definitely put more pressure on myself than any like external factors. But it's that sort of thing where it's like it's tied to your livelihood, but it's also what you want to do too. And I think, like I think a lot of people can relate to that is like in the sport of running, as I was saying earlier, it's like it becomes so addicting to just like want to keep getting better. But it's also like, I don't know, you have to be careful. At least for me, I've like lost a lot of the joy when it's like you just keep going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like you still have to be, I don't know, like celebrating the little wins or celebrating the things that maybe aren't like a big personal best or something, but are ways that you're like getting better as like whether that be physically or mentally or however. But I think that like forgetting to celebrate those things for me or like always focusing so much on the outcome is definitely where I've lost a little bit at times some of that like joy and fun in it.
And I guess there was a point where you held the indoor record for the 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Did you celebrate that? Like, did you realize that you were the fastest American to run a 5K? Like, how did that feel?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I think that's like a great question. And that's, again, back to my high school coach, who was an assistant, Jason Hartman. Like, he's just had such a, like, impact on my life. And I remember him telling me that in high school. He was like, Elise, you have to, like, and my college coach, too. Like, you have to celebrate the steps forward or you're not going to get momentum. And I feel like for a while, I didn't really understand that. But then when people ask me questions like that, it's like, man, like, looking back, it's like, I wish I would have celebrated that more. For instance, it's like I think my initial thought is like, oh, like I felt so good I could have gone faster, but it's like that's the fastest like any American has run, but also the fastest that I'd ever run. And if we talk about, like why did you get into it and to see like how good you can be and push your limits, it's like that's something that I try to ground myself in and keep coming back to is like that's at the time like that was the fastest I had ever run by like 15 seconds. And so like even regardless of if it's a record or not, it's like that's something where it's like that's the best you've ever run, Elise. Like, so
I guess it's the mindset really of being that consistent, training that hard to get that good is probably the reason why you don't just put your feet up at the top and then be like, oh, I'm great. Instead, it's like, oh, I could have gone a little bit more. I want to be a bit faster, etc.
Yeah.
Because it's that mindset that got you there, which is why you almost can't just relax and enjoy it when you get there.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's like, man, it's such a like double-edged sword though, right? It's like that's where it gets you there and it's like you need that, but it's so important I think to have like be balanced with it too, of which is something that I've like really had to work on I think throughout my career of just like, okay, also like celebrating there's a big spectrum of like from like being just because you celebrate it doesn't mean you're content and you don't want more, and I think that's like a hard lesson I've had to learn of like, okay, you can still be excited and celebrate it and still like want more or be excited. But like, I think sometimes that's gotten me into a little bit of trouble where it's like, you're so afraid to be content that then it's like, well, I ran this fast to go faster. I need to like train even harder or do even more. And it's like, that's a really like dangerous trap to fall into. Cause sometimes it's just like tweaking the little things. It's like, oh, I just can do a little bit more recovery and that will help me. Or I can work on something with my mindset or my confidence. Like it's not always doing like more training harder to like get to where you need to go.
Because I guess if you keep optimizing everything, you'll get to the point where you're having to live in this state that's not sustainable.
For sure.
And probably the greatest way of what led you to be that incredibly fast and successful is the fact that you enjoyed it and you could keep doing it month on month and year on year.
Yeah.
And almost then the key is like recognizing the state that you're training optimally and happy.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go too fast past that, it's now unsustainable and that's going to lead to injuries or illness or other issues.
Yeah, for sure. I think sustainability, that's a huge word that I always come back to because I do think, especially as a professional runner, when it like going back to your question of like when it is your livelihood, I think the biggest thing is just like you can expand running into the whole day. Like, it's not a job where you like leave the office and like you can maybe shut off or something. It's like you could spend your whole day like completely trying to optimize everything, right? And I think a lot of runners are perfectionists, and like I'll speak for myself, but as a perfectionist, it's like you could always feel like you could be doing something a little bit better. And so I think trying to realize like, yeah, letting go of that perfectionist piece and be like, when is it going to be like, when can I find where it's sustainable and where I'm like most happy doing it, and where I'm like, yes, prioritizing recovery and working hard, but doing it in a way that's like, okay, I could do this for months on end, not like I could do this for a month and then I'm like so burnt out.
Because is that when you were at Bowerman Track Cup, which you were kind of there the golden days of Bowerman, which is one of the most like infamous like training groups, Nike supported. Do you think having people, they were the most like renowned group, and you were all like being so successful and, you know, winning everything. Do you think being around those kind of people put more pressure on you, and you were like, I have to? Well, you did. You can talk about that, but you got to the Olympics with them, and how was having those people at the top?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I joined at, like you said, an incredible time. Like when you think back to like wanting to go pro after college, it's like I remember watching Bowerman in 2016 at the US trials, and like almost everyone on the women's team like made the Olympic team. And I was like, wow, like that's a team that I want to be a part of. And that was something that was so cool when I joined the team, of just like, you're training with people that have done what you want to do. Like they've made Olympic teams, they've won medals, they've set American or national records or world records. And I think that was like such an inspiring environment to be a part of, and like really helped me level up. And I would say the biggest thing that probably put pressure on myself was when I made my first Olympic team and ran in Tokyo in 2021, because I stood on the start line, and that was kind of my first like global race experience, which was incredible. But I think after that, I was like, wow, now I've seen, like, I've raced against the best in the world, and I've seen what it takes. And I felt like I was pretty like far back in that race. And so I think that's the thing where it was like, instead of maybe like celebrating like, wow, this lifelong like dream accomplished, which I did, I think my initial response was like, okay, how do I bridge that gap? Like, how do I bridge the gap to be top 5 instead of like 12th or 13th? And so I think it's been like the last few years really about like finding that balance.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, like, what does balance and a normal week of training look like for you now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is about a year and a half ago, I moved back to Boulder. And so that's been huge, because I grew up here. My family's here. I have some really close friends here. And so I think, you know, when you talk about sustainability, is like that's made it much more sustainable for me in terms of like, there are times throughout a week where I can feel like I'm not a runner. And I think that's something that's really important for me. Like there just has to be whether it's just like going over to my parents' house for dinner or something, just where you feel like, okay, I'm Elise the person, not Elise the runner. And so I think that has helped me find balance. I started working with a new coach about a year ago, and we have known each other for the last 10 years. So I think there's a lot of like trust there. And like, I think having a little bit more kind of say in my training, or it's like very collaborative, I think that is really helpful too, and is very empowering. I think just as I've been in the sport for a while, it's cool to kind of stop and think about, okay, what works for me? Like, what do I feel? Where do I feel my best? And kind of talk with him about that. So yeah, training wise, I think just figuring out like the kind of line between like pushing hard, but also recovering. Cause I've found myself kind of multiple times going over that line where there's just not enough recovery. And so, yeah. And I think what helps me do that is being surrounded by some friends and family that keep me like where it's not running all the time.
I guess then in a normal week, are you running every day? Are you training every day? Or how often are you running? How often are you in the gym? And do you do much cross training to complement as well?
Yeah. So I think, you know, growing up like swimming and with that triathlon influence, I swim usually once or twice a week. That's been really helpful just in like keeping my aerobic capacity up, but also keeping me healthy. So I usually will run, pretty much every day. Sometimes I'll take one day off a week. Like that's always helpful for me mentally. I'll do, so today's Saturday, I did a long run. I do long run in gym. And then Monday's usually a double run day and some like strength, physio, core stuff. Tuesday, I'll do a double workout, usually focused on like threshold strength. Then Wednesday is my cross train day plus a run, but definitely more heavy on the swim, shorter run. And then Thursday I'll do another double, and then Friday will be a workout day. And then Sunday's my really chill day, like usually a short run, maybe off, or like an easy swim. So yeah.
It must be nice being able to do all that and like loving it again. I love your story. Just like so it must have been really hard is what I wanted to ask you. Like when you were at the top, you'd made the Olympics and then you had to kind of take a step back and realize it wasn't like the best mindset place you were in. And then you stepped away from Bowerman and then to like almost have to like just like restart your whole perspective on it and then still be motivated to get back to where you are now and training as well as you ever have done again. How was all of that?
and I guess you made it to then Paris Olympics as well.
Yeah. I would say like, yeah, that's a great question. I think in some ways when it's like you think about like some moments that stand out in your career, I think making that Paris team last year was really big because I felt like I did it a completely different way, like you said. And I think sometimes as much as I wish like as humans that we could like have totally that blind trust, like it definitely was, I don't know if the word is like haunting me, but like thinking that there's like just one way to do things or like this is how I train to get to the Tokyo Olympics. Like I think it's really hard to like kind of shift your perspective and be like, I can do this. There are a lot of different ways to get there, you know? And I think you see that with like people train very differently. And some people cross train more or not. And so I think that's what was really cool about making the Paris team is like, I felt like my coach, Jared, and I really worked on like, okay, what's the best formula for Elise? And I think at the time, like it was huge that I joined Bowerman out of college. Like I needed that structure. I needed to be surrounded by those people that had done it. But then I think it came to a point where it's like, I need to start thinking about what actually works best for me and how can I just kind of like tinker it so it's like there didn't need to be big changes, but where, you know, you're optimizing recovery and you're finding that fun and that joy again. And so I think, I think there are a lot of like struggles between Tokyo and Paris, but also cool to feel like, okay, taking these leaps of faith and, you know, they were scary at first. It's like totally changing it up. And especially in an Olympic year, like looking back, it's like, man, I was like making a lot of changes within like 7-8 months of the Olympics. But I think that's a thing. It's like, if you're not really enjoying it anymore and it's not fun, like people ask me like, why did you do that in an Olympic year? And it's like, if you're not enjoying it anymore, for me, it's like you want to run well every year and every year is important. And it's like, if it's not sustainable, you don't want to stay in a spot for another year. And I think in a lot of ways, I think that's like saved my running career moving forward.
Even just like hearing you talk about it then and like saying how special Paris was because you made it back a different way, you can see how you've celebrated that like with a different like mindset to how you did with Tokyo.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think just like learning that there are like different ways to get to the same spot. And I think that's like there's something really powerful about that.
I think that's just so helpful for like anyone to hear as well. Like there's no right or wrong. Like you want to train for your first marathon, you don't need to run 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. You don't need to gym 1, 2. It's what will make you happiest to be able to keep training for months and months on end. And that will lead you to being a healthy, happy runner. And I think like we all have a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I think it's such a good learning.
Yeah.
I guess looking ahead, what's the big goal from here?
Yeah. So there's a world championships this year in Tokyo. And so I would say the big goal is to be top 3 at US trials to try to make that team. I think going to Tokyo and being in that stadium but having no fans because it was COVID is like, it would be really cool and full circle to be able to make a team and go back to Tokyo and like just feel like, okay, I'm competing on the global stage, but I've had 4 more years of experience. So I would say kind of that's the big focus. And then, yeah, just continuing to like, this sounds cliche, but like find the joy and the fun in it. And, you know, I mean, as you just said, like kind of applicable to everyone, but I think really like finding what works for you and being confident in that. I think that's something that I'm still like, it's an ever never ending process.
I love the perspective. And also you're, I think, really you're not saying that you're looking ahead to this goal in 5, 6, 7 years. And instead it's making sure you're happy, making sure you're training week in, week out. And that's going to lead you to being hopefully doing well and getting back to Tokyo. But like you keep that system and that's going to lead you to being in a great place in years from now.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I think my strength coach that I work with, he said like, how can we create this next like 4 years, like this next Olympic cycle and think of it more like that. Like, I think sometimes I can get very short-sighted, which is like, sometimes you want to be that way because you want to be really present. But I think it's also helpful when he was like, let's look at this as a 4-year block. But it's like, when you also think about it like that, I think it forces you to think, how can we train sustainably? How can we maximize trying to find consistency? Because it's like, I want to be excited, like going into the Olympic trials and trying to qualify for the team in LA that's going to be in the US. And like, I think it's helpful to have like that really long-term goal, but also think about it as kind of a chunk of time of like, okay, if it's not sustainable and it's not like joyful, I'm not going to make it 4 years from now. So it doesn't matter if that's the goal, right? It has to be like, okay, how are you making decisions where it's like, you're going to keep building excitement and be excited for 4 years from now and kind of get that momentum.
Have you done anything over the years to keep yourself this motivated? Have you worked with any like mindset coaches, or do you have like a tip that you could like give people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've worked with, it was actually right after Tokyo, I started working with Dr. Stan Beecham, who's a sports psych. He wrote a book and I just read his book and then just cold emailed him and he emailed me back. So that's been really cool because now we've been working together for, I guess, almost 4 years. And so I would say that's been really helpful. He's been someone that's really helpful through the ups and downs. I would say like the biggest thing is just having like family or friends or whoever it is that always helps you keep that perspective. I think that's been helpful. Like, I think it's so easy to fall into like the trap of like one bad race or one bad workout. And so for me, I think it's just about keeping that perspective is really important. And people that remind me like, okay, it's running and it's your livelihood and it's what you love to do, but like it's running, you know, it's like not that it's not that serious. And I think that is what has kept me going too. And so I would say like find people, whether they be friends or family members in your corner that can kind of always like just bring you back to like that perspective. And I think, you know, as we talked about at the beginning, like remembering like how far you've come, I think it's really easy to like think about your goals and how far you have to go. But I've like always found when I do that and it becomes too daunting, it's like, okay, let's go back to like how far you've come or the things that you've like learned or how you've grown as a person. And again, this sounds cliche, but it's like running, I feel like is such a microcosm of like just becoming a better person and learning more about yourself. And I think that's what keeps me motivated too, is like, yes, you have these goals and you want to go after them, but it's also like, how can you be just like getting better as a person or learning more about yourself or learning more about how you interact with the world.
Yeah.
Wow. And I guess all the while you started out looking to your parents and Ironman. Do you train with your parents now at all? Are they still going at their Ironman?
They're not anymore. That's funny. I will sometimes, usually on my cross train days, I'll swim with Master Swimming. So I'll usually join them. It's funny that you asked too. I had a strength workout in the gym after my long run today, and both my parents were at the gym, so my dad joined part of it, and he had some friends in there that were making fun of him because he tries to keep up and do some of them, and he's like, I'm like, Dad, you need to try some of these exercises when I'm not around so like you can keep getting better and see the improvements. But yeah, they're not competing anymore, but it's really fun to be back in Boulder because they're super supportive. So they often like jump on the bike when I'm on a run, or they'll come out to the track and just like time or bring some music and some good vibes. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, we don't train together anymore, but.
And do you think you'll do an Ironman one day?
I would like to one day, at least one. I feel like I want to at least be able to experience what they did. And yeah, it just seems like such an incredible feat that I feel like it's like at least one is on
I
my
think that'd
list.
be an amazing full circle moment, given that's what really inspired you and got you into it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Well, we're going to segue over to Steph for our coaching tip of the week.
Today's top tip is to give yourself plenty of time. It's really easy to get carried away, see a race in a few weeks, and rush the process of training. But the more time you have to get there, the slower you can build up towards the race, the less likely you are to get injured, and the faster and stronger you can get overall. Rushing the process and ramping your mileage too quickly will only increase your chance of picking up that niggle.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by the Runner app, the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. If you want to try the app today, use code podcast25 for 2 weeks totally for free. And please do remember to rate, follow, and subscribe to us on your listening platform to help us climb the rankings and so that we can keep bringing you the most interesting and amazing guests.
Thanks for that, Steph. I have a question sent in from one of our runners, which I'd love to put to you. When your race starts falling apart, how do you keep it together mentally?
Oh, that's such a good question. Actually, I feel like I have a good answer for this because this just happened to me a couple weeks ago. And I would say the biggest thing is setting like a few different goals before the race. And I feel like for me, I like to write it down. But I feel like writing down kind of like an A goal, B goal, C goal, just like a few different things. I think that's really helpful because if it starts to fall apart, instead of just feeling like, oh my gosh, my initial goal is slipping away, it's like much easier to just shift the focus. Like, okay, let's shift the focus to the next one, shift the focus to the next one. So I would say that's a big thing that I do. And then I think another helpful tip is like writing down a few goals that don't have anything to do with like an outcome or time, but basically how you want to race or what you want to be thinking. And so for me, that would look like, okay, if I'm falling off the pack or I'm not feeling good today and like my kind of A, B, C goals are slipping away, I want to make sure that like I'm still working on positive self-talk or I'm still focusing on my form or whatever cue is helpful. But I think when you have a couple things that you're focused on outside of just the outcome of like, I want to finish this race and feel proud of myself and like whatever that is for you. So like for me, I was like, okay, I'm now far off the back of this pack. I'm last in the race, but like, how can I still stay as close as possible to the person right in front of me? How can I make sure I'm still like closing the end of the race faster? So I think thinking about things like that and shifting your focus is what I would say. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is kind of having more than one goal in the race, just so you can like have that readily available to shift your focus if you're not having a great day.
That's one of the best bits of advice like I've heard. Like
Yeah.
a goal that isn't anything to do with time and place. It's so good. Do you have any tips, Ben?
Well, I think in a moment where you feel like it's going wrong and you're not going as fast as you like, I think that the most important thing is just to keep going and knowing that that moment will pass.
Yeah.
And so you're in a moment where you feel like you're slowing down and you're not happy because you're not keeping to the pace of your A goal or whatever it's going to be. I think keep moving and actually you'll be proud in 10 seconds or in 30 seconds time or in the next kilometer mark when you go past it and you realize you're still going. And actually take a big deep breath, look at your watch, and maybe your average time is still great, even if you're maybe not quite holding the pace you like. Give yourself a pat on the back and just keep on going and knowing that like that moment will pass. Don't throw your toys out the pram. And actually by keeping on going, you can then be proud again in 2 or 3 minutes time. And that might help you, give you the nudge to keep getting through. And I think the reason why we do it, while often we want a nice time, the reason why we do it is to do something hard and be proud of ourselves at the end. And if always we got the time we dreamt of, we'd probably end up running a marathon in 1 second because we keep wanting a faster time until eventually you can do it at 100 miles an hour. But actually what makes us enjoy these races is actually the fight that you've got to go through, and then the relief and the satisfaction you get at the finish line. And that wouldn't be satisfying and it wouldn't be a relief if it was always easy to get there. So I think you just got to keep on going, keep on soldiering through.
I think that's so important to remember. I feel like those are the races, like even if the result isn't like, or the time isn't like sexy and flashy, I think a lot of people that you would ask, like, what is a race you're most proud of, are probably the races where it feels like it's falling apart and you still manage to like finish, or you manage to like save it or salvage something, like, because that's where you're like forced to dig deep. Like I do feel like a lot of times where someone's setting a personal best, it's like you're feeling amazing, like you're on top of the world.
It's easy.
You're like, you finish and you're that's what we were saying earlier. You finish and you're like, I could have run faster, but it's like the days where it's like you're not feeling as good. And that reminds me of something. And then you don't
give up. The days where you're not feeling good, but you keep on getting to the end. Like that, that finish line feels so much greater because you know you came so close to giving up.
Yeah. I think an assistant coach in college, I loved this. She said like, take whatever like team sport. But she was like, football, for instance, like a team is losing. They don't go into the locker room at halftime and just decide they're like not going to try anymore and throw in the towel. They come back out, and like usually you see them come out like fighting so much harder. And I loved that because I think that's what you said. It's like, don't throw in the towel when you're halfway through the race or a quarter of the way through the race. Cause it's like, you could have a great day. It's like, maybe you just have to go through this period of not feeling that good. And I was just telling someone the other day, I was like, how would you race if you knew that you were going to get the outcome that you wanted? Like you would race with so much confidence and so much peace, and you would trust that like if you felt bad for a couple miles in the middle, like that was part of the journey to get to the outcome. And so it's like, I like thinking about that too, is like, let's just say I like knew that I was guaranteed to get this time or this place. Like, how would you handle those moments where it gets hard?
You'd be a lot more relaxed.
You would. You would be like, okay, running a couple hard miles is the way that I'm going to get there. You would feel like this is part of the process and the steps to get there. So I always like doing that thought experiment too, of like, let's just say I knew what was going to happen and that this was going to be a great day. Then I would trust that if I felt bad, I could still get a personal best. I don't have to feel amazing the whole time to get a personal best.
I think like that exactly kind of case happened with me. So we have the Hackney Half Marathon, which is one of the biggest half marathons in London, and we had it last weekend actually. And Annie set off just ahead of me. Kind of, I could see her on the starting pen, but she was a little bit further up, and I probably wasn't planning on running as hard. But I caught up with you and your friends, and they were all running very fast. And in kilometers, they were running or aiming to run a 3:40 pace. And I think the first 4 or 5K, you were just under that. So it was like 3:38s, 3:36s, and I was with you. And I was like, I can't sustain this. I'm like probably going to make a big mistake. If I try and do this for too long, I'll end up having a rubbish race. So I like didn't give up, but I intentionally slowed down, let Anya go, which is frustrating because I'd have loved to have run with Anya the whole way through. But I like didn't stop. I kept going, and I probably ran at a 3:45 pace for a few K, and actually realized it was okay, sped up a little bit, and I ended up running 3:40 for the last 10K and averaged 3:42. And I think like that's the exact thing that you said, which is just like, don't give up when it's getting hard. And as a result, I kind of finished feeling so proud because I came so close to being like, oh, well, I couldn't keep up with Anya. I'll just run an easy run, you know?
Yeah.
But instead kind of kept in that suffering zone. And I think that's what leads to it feeling great at the finish line. Even though it wasn't a PB, it wasn't like the greatest run I've done. I think it felt great because you were so close to giving up, and then not giving up makes the satisfaction that much greater.
100%.
Let's move on to some sillier this or that's. So we know you like your shorter distances. If you could snog, marry, and avoid 1,500 meters, 5K, and 10K, how would you stack them?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. I would marry the 5K, snog the 15, avoid the 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Flirt at the 15, never touch the 10.
Yeah.
Love it. I guess, Anya, how are you answering that? Or are you just always to the longer stuff?
Always the longer stuff. But it's funny that you called that shorter stuff because that's so like middle distance.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's not short distance. But yeah, to me, that's very
compared
short.
to you marathoners and Ironman people, that's all pretty short.
I need to get better at quicker stuff.
Okay, would you rather train in the winter's sun or the summer's rain?
Oh, I'd probably go winter sun. Yeah.
I think quite nice when you've got like a real crisp, sunny morning.
Yeah. I love the sunshine too much.
Anya?
Yeah, winter sun. It's my favourite time to run. I run well in the cold
I thought
as
you
well.
just like 5 a.m. in the dark in Battersea Park.
That as well.
Okay, last one. Would you rather do all of your training on the track? So all your running, all your training is on the track from now on till forever.
Okay.
Or you can never touch the track again.
Oh my gosh. Probably never touch the track again. Yeah.
Really?
There's just too much out there on the roads and the trails.
Mm.
I feel like I would go crazy. I feel like having to do all my runs around the track, I would go insane.
You'd have to make it fun by going the wrong way around, just, for a bit of variety.
Yeah. But that, like, how fun can that be after a while?
Yeah.
You know?
And
you could run another lane.
You could really switch it up.
And road racing is like getting as fast as track racing, really.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have a flat tempo loop or interval loop that you'll do around your house, or are you always taking yourself to the track to train?
Mostly to the track, but I feel like, that's actually funny because, well, two things. My dad was saying today, he was like, I feel like you should just do some more road races for fun. He was like, I think that would be like just throughout the season sometimes, or the beginning of the season. And then I was running with my partner this morning, and we were talking about the world record for the men's marathon and how fast it is and how fast Eliud Kipchoge has run. And we were thinking about it in terms of a track. We were like, what is that for splits for 400? And then we were like, oh my gosh, that's over 100, and that's like 105 laps around the track. So that's funny that you asked that, because then I was thinking about, oh my gosh, running 105 laps around the track for a marathon, and that was too much.
Do you think you could cheat, so you can stop your watch and start your watch, but have unlimited elapsed time? But do you think you could run a 2-hour marathon where you just run your 105 laps?
Yeah.
So do you think you could do 105 laps where you get as long rest as you like between them, but you have to do one day? And
in 24-hour period.
You can't go to sleep. So like from when you wake up in the morning, you're at the track, you need to run your 105 laps at Kipchoge pace. Do you think you could do a 2-hour marathon?
No.
Just because your legs would just give up by the end?
That's what we were saying. We were like, that it's running like, I think it's like 4:35 pace per mile. I don't know what that is for Ks.
It's like 2:42 pace, I think.
Like, that's crazy.
2:52 pace, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think about, even if I broke it up, I guess if you broke it up in like literally just 400 meters at a time.
Well, it's 100. It's just over 100.
Yeah.
Would you? What's the longest or the biggest kind of volume workout you'd do for your 5K training?
The longest I've gone is I've done a 20-mile long run. And then probably the biggest like volume workout at a time would be like 10 miles of like threshold or strength at a time, or like a 10 miles.
You're going to be fine when you go and do your Ironman. You're pretty much there.
Yeah.
Do you want to take us away with the final question?
Our final closing question is, you're designing your dream race. What is the distance? Where is it? What food and drink is being served at the finish line? And who would give you your award?
Oh my gosh. Man, that's the hardest question of the day. Oh man. I think, wow, this is a very hard question. I think just like being from Boulder and feeling like I kind of got my start running around the Boulder Reservoir. It's like a little over a 5-mile loop that you can do around the Boulder Res. And so that would probably be just like an off race distance, which I like. So it's like, it's not a 10K, it's not a 5K. Like no one really knows what their time would be.
Yeah, no pressure on the time.
Yeah. I think it's like 5.25 mile. And it's like some rolling hills. I feel like it's just so pretty. And like I remember doing that all throughout high school growing up. So it's meaningful. So that would be the race, location, distance. And then if you start at Tom Watson Park in Boulder, I feel like there's like a whole little park and parking lot. And so that would be a perfect place to have food after. So you said food and drink?
Yeah, food and drink finish.
Let's see. I'd probably have a food truck with like a pizza oven.
Nice.
So making pizza. And have, what to drink? Can I have an ice cream truck too?
I was going to say, I feel like you should be running to the ice cream place like you used to.
Yes. Wow, we're really like getting really nostalgic. And then
Who would present you with your award?
oh man. That's such a hard question. I'm trying to think. Maybe honestly, I might go with my grandma.
Oh,
Yeah. She like grew like when I was growing up too. She actually was just visiting the other day and she did ultras, like 100-milers.
Oh, wow.
And I asked when she did her first one because I didn't realize, and she did her first one at 65 years old. And so I feel like she also was someone that like was very influential with me getting into running. So I feel like
There's a lot of endurance in the family.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be doing some longer stuff than 5K.
I know. I think I should. I was talking to someone the other day and I was telling them just like about my family growing up and they were like, do you know that's like not normal?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm very, very aware.
I feel like she must have been one of the earliest women to be running
I was just
100
gonna
miles.
say.
Yeah. And for her to start at 65 is crazy. But yeah, I think she just like still loves running. She gets out there every day. So I feel like she would just be a really good person to give out awards.
Oh.
No one else would know who she was, but
Well,
that's okay. She's an awesome lady.
Amazing.
And is your race a mass participation race? Is it a fun run? Is there an elite wave? Like, what's the lay of the land?
Ooh, mass participation for sure. I wouldn't even do an elite race. I think just have everyone together and like just a free for all. Yeah.
And you're going to go and win it?
I feel like I would want to run like middle of the pack,
Okay.
you know?
Have
Just
some
like
fun.
meet people along the
Yeah.
way, talk to them.
You could just pace them for their PB.
Yeah. Ideally have
Mm.
people from all over. Show them how cool Boulder is.
No, you're going to have to set this up.
Yeah, you guys are inspiring me. You have any name ideas for me?
Yeah, we could call it the Boulder Reservoir Runner 5 something mile run.
Perfect.
It's got a ring to it.
Rings off
Let's
the tongue.
collab.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, it's amazing to learn about your story. And I think it's fascinating to hear the highs and lows you've had with it. And clearly what works for you is loving life, loving your training. And I think if you keep doing that, you're going to do incredible things. And we can't wait to see what you do next.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on today. And it's been so great to be here.